Recording in progress.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. And welcome to our final episode, which is called Governance Disruption of the 21st Century Leadership Challenges. And we have with us today, Dr. Ravi Fernando. So Dr. Ravi Fernando, he's on 8 multinational and local boards. He's an alumni of the University of Cambridge and INSEAD Business School, having completed all his sustainability studies, that is postgraduate and masters, and all his strategy studies at INSEAD Business School. He's a visiting faculty in INSEAD Business School and is an executive in residence there. Dr. Fernando created the 21st Century Board Leadership Model, which was developed in June 2020, and a US copyright was secured. It was later converted into a master class that is now being taught in Luxembourg, Ireland, UK, and Sri Lanka, soon to be launched in Malaysia, Vietnam, and India. So over to you, Dr. Fernando. How are you? And
hi, Michael. Good to see you after some time. Today, our main focus is governance. And what I'm going to do today is first talk a little about the 21st Century Leadership Program, which this is the 6th session, and then talk in little more detail in terms of governance, because we will then move into the story on the subject. Okay? So yeah, over to you.
All right. Can you explain what you mean by what is meant by governance? Your explanation.
Good question. So in the world of business, the word governance is very, very complicated because they end up giving you so many various definitions. So they make it very, very serious. But today I want to tell you that the word governance is a simple word. And as a sustainability champion, the way to remember the word governance is simple. If you are a 21st century leader, then you will always make decisions putting people and planet before profit. Any company or any nation that is putting profit before people or putting profit before planet is compromising governance. So the best way to remember this subject is putting profit after making sure that you have protected the planet and protected the people. So what I'd like to do is give you a few examples so that everyone listening in today can understand this topic very easily and very clearly. Okay, so what are the examples I'm going to give? The first example I want to give today is what happened with COVID-19. When we had COVID-19 creating a big problem for everyone, some countries put profit before people. And by putting profit before people, these countries had the highest number of deaths in terms of COVID-19. Highest number. Okay? So what are these countries? If you remember, the countries that were in a big hurry to open the economies before even the vaccination program started, these countries ended up creating a big problem for themselves and for the world. So what are these countries? The first country that comes to my mind is the United States of America, which was led by, at that time, a 19th century leader. So what did he do? He was in a big hurry to open up the economies. And by doing so, today, even after 1.5 years of COVID, the highest number of deaths due to COVID is in that country. Can you see? By making a mistake, one simple mistake, you end up creating a problem that today, even so many years, almost a year after the whole story, is yet the same problem. So what is the second country that compromised governance by putting profit before people? It's the second country with the highest number of deaths in terms of COVID-19, and that is Brazil. And Brazil's leader, Bolsonaro, even today, is compromising the people of Brazil in the pursuance of trying to achieve the profits or the nation's economic growth by compromising people. And this is once again a bad example of 21st century leadership. Thirdly, the third country that also did this to a certain extent was, of course, India, which also initially didn't go into lockdown. So now I have given you 3 examples of putting profit before planet. Now let's look at companies and examples of where they put profit before planet. Now I first gave you examples of people, profit before people. Now let's look at profit before planet. So when we look at the plastic, single-use plastic industry, the nation that has created the biggest problem for the world, or the company that has made the biggest problem, has always been Coca-Cola. So what has Coca-Cola done? They used to be selling Coca-Cola in glass bottles, but they were hungry for the profits and then ended up making sure that Coca-Cola went straight away into plastic single-use bottles. And by so doing, what they ended up is maybe better profits, but became the world's biggest compromiser in terms of single-use plastics. So the world's biggest polluter for single-use plastics is Coca-Cola, followed by Pepsi-Cola, followed by companies like Danone, who are in the yogurt business. And they actually compromise the planet quite significantly. So that's another example of putting profit before planet. Then let's look at the world of defense spending, defense expenditure. Some of the big countries in the world are putting massive money behind defense equipment and defense, the entire defense expenditure. Ideally, they should have put planet before defense and put that money into accelerating renewable energy and exiting fossil fuels. But instead of which, they keep pumping money into doing the wrong thing. So these are 3 examples that I'm sharing with you today, which are clearly showing us how people have basically compromised the planet for profit. Then I can give you one final example, which is what happened at COP26. How nations after nation put profit before planet by delaying the exiting of fossil fuels. What they did was, by postponing that, they ended up actually compromising future generations and the planet. So who are the countries who did that? So basically there are four countries which were aggressively doing this. Number one, of course, this time was India, China, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Russia, Canada, and Brazil. These countries all put their economic growth in the short to medium term ahead of the planet. And as a result, these countries are also today mentioned by Global Climate Action Tracking as the most unprepared and critically insufficiently prepared countries for the climate emergency. So they are in the black and red list in terms of the climate. But what did they do? What they did was make sure that all their pledges in terms of exiting fossil fuels were postponed to from 2030 to 2040, 50, 60, and 70. So once again, a classic example of countries putting profit before planet. So governance, I have now given you some company examples. Two examples of countries, one with COVID-19 and one with COP26, and basically showing you how business leaders and national leaders are compromising governance, the very essence of governance. Okay, so I've given you some examples and I've given you some compromises, and now you can look at the next area.
Right. So, is there a sector in the world which compromises governance? And if you could explain about that?
Yes, I think that's an excellent question. So let me share with you what I think is the biggest compromise on the planet in terms of governance. So if you remember in our first few sessions where we talked about the three emergencies, climate emergency, health and social emergency, and then we talked about the economic emergency. I told you the cause of global warming is the burning of fossil fuels. So now I'm going to tell you the fossil fuel industry is probably the world's biggest compromiser of the word governance. So let me now explain to you how both companies and countries are actually compromising the world by simply in the fossil fuel sector putting the profit of fossil fuels and the economic growth of countries before the planet and before the people. So first, before I do that, I want you to know that 92% of the world's carbon emissions cumulatively have been basically released to the atmosphere by the global north. So the Europeans, the Americans, the Canadians, the Russians basically have been the 92% of all global emissions. Right. So what is this story about the fossil fuel compromise? So you'll be quite stunned to realize that the very thing that is causing global warming, the very thing that is causing all the problems to the planet is burning fossil fuels. And as at 2018, the world was putting $5.2 trillion to subsidize fossil fuels. Now, can you think of anything more ironical than subsidizing the cause of the climate emergency and the code red for humanity? It is absolutely a joke, because that is the ultimate compromise that the world is making. So $5.2 trillion per annum in a global GDP of $90 trillion, where they're spending nearly $14.5 billion per day, which works out to almost $600 million per hour, and works out to $10 million per minute, and works out to $168,000 per second. So the world's leaders are investing or putting this amount of money to compromise the planet by putting profit before planet. Now I want to share with you what has happened to that subsidy in 2020. This figure of $5.2 trillion has increased to $5.9 trillion, which now makes it $11 million every minute versus $10 million, and then $180,000 a second. Why? To subsidize fossil fuels so that everybody can burn more fossil fuels cheaper. And 92% of this $5.9 trillion is coming in implicit subsidies and not explicit subsidies. So indirect subsidies. And 47% of this subsidy is coming for 99% of the coal is actually 50% lower than its true cost, because they're subsidizing coal power. So this is the sad truth in terms of compromise number one by nations and by businesses, because they are putting profit before planet. They are putting economic growth before people and planet. And businesses, knowing very well, especially the fossil fuel business, knowing very well that this is going to cause massive problems for the planet with the climate emergency, have continued to do so, ignoring people and ignoring the planet. So now the question is, who are these companies? Because finally, there is a name to any company that is doing this. So if I look at the fossil fuel companies, I have already shared with you the countries that are investing in subsidizing fossil fuels. But now I'm going to give you the top 10 companies in the world who are doing exactly the same thing with fossil fuels. So Saudi Aramco, Chevron, Gazprom in Russia, ExxonMobil, the National Iranian Oil Company, the Royal Shell, then we have Coal India, and we have Pamex, and these are the big companies. In addition to that, British Petroleum are the oil companies that are compromising the planet. I have already given you the countries, but what is also something that we need to discuss today is that companies are spending billions of dollars to make sure that world leaders continue to do this, continue to put fossil fuels subsidies, and companies are spending tons of dollars. So in the European Union, in just the last 2 years, last 2 to 3 years, they spent 252 million euros to make sure governments continue to subsidize and don't introduce any legislation to block fossil fuels. The four fossil fuel corporations mostly investing money to block climate action are Shell, ExxonMobil, Total of France, and Chevron. So these are four companies who are the main spenders of money to block the fossil fuel exit. And in terms of banks, we have 4 or 5 banks who have also compromised the world and put a lot of money into fossil fuels, though they said they will not do so. And this must be looked at with the backdrop of the world finding that renewable energy now is cheaper than coal, cheaper than petroleum, and cheaper than almost all the fossil fuels in the planet. So even though renewable energy like solar plus batteries, offshore wind, large-scale batteries, all that is cheaper than fossil fuels, people are yet spending money on fossil fuels because they have such a big investment in the infrastructure. So I have now given you a sector that is compromising the planet dramatically. And this sector has known from even as far as I can tell you that they have known this problem was there even as far back as can you hear me and see me well? Okay. Even as far back as 1985, they knew these problems were there, but they continued to do so, ignoring basically the planet and ignoring people. So this is a very sad situation that we have in the world. And this compromise is actually the reason we have such a lot of problems in the world today as we speak in the world. So I have to shown you how fossil fuel industry is almost single-handedly investing money in destroying the planet, and how countries with 19th century leadership are doing the same, and by so doing compromising, putting profit before planet and people. But there's one sector that I want to speak more about today, and that is the banking sector. So let's now talk a little about the banking sector, because the banking sector has actually compromised the planet more than any other sector in the world. So let's look at a report. So there's a report which came out this year called Banking on Climate Chaos. Banking on Climate Chaos. This report is 2021. So very recent report, Michael. In this report, we see they have given us the names of every bank that is compromising the planet. And the top 10 banks they have given us are JP Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, HSBC, Barclays, Mitsubishi Bank, RBC Bank, Royal Bank of Canada, and Deutsche Bank, Sumitomo Mitsubishi Financial Bank, and the Standard Chartered Bank. So what we are seeing is, in this report, what they're showing us is they have spent nearly $2 to $3, supporting fossil fuels despite the fact that they committed in 2015 December to stop doing that. So this is a really crazy situation in the world banking industry. So let's spend a little more time on these banks and understand how much money they have spent banking on fossil fuel projects, financing fossil fuel projects in the last, let's say, the last 5 years. So JP Morgan is the worst offender and have spent $317 billion on fossil fuel projects in the last 5 years. They are followed by Citibank, who has spent $237 billion in the last 5 years on fossil fuels. Citibank is followed by Wells Fargo, who have spent $223 billion. So Citibank and Wells Fargo have virtually spent the same amount of money. Bank of America has spent $198 billion. Royal Bank of Canada have spent $160 billion on what you're seeing is even leaders like Justin Trudeau have really put profit before planet by not Bank of Canada's investment in fossil fuels. So besides that, you can see Barclays Bank and the Mitsubishi Bank has spent $148 billion in the last 5 years. Barclays Bank UK is the worst offending bank in England, has spent $145 billion. Mizuho Bank in Japan has then gone and spent $123 billion. And then you have two other banks from Canada, the Scotia Bank and there's one other bank in Canada who has spent about $120 billion and $114 billion respectively. BNP Paribas in France spent $121 billion. Stanley is number 12, having spent $111 billion. So what this is showing us is that these banks have absolutely spent a stunning amount of dollars to fund fossil fuel projects, even after the Paris Agreement, where they said they will stop doing that. So if we look at these companies a little further, you can see on average, JP Morgan is the worst offender, having spent $317 billion 5 years in a row. So every year. Then you have the second biggest offender is Citibank. Third biggest, I told you, is Wells Fargo, and has actually invested the most amount of, Citibank has invested most of their money on ExxonMobil and Enbridge. The Wells Fargo Bank has invested money in fracking and put a lot of money into fracking for oil. Bank of America has put most of their money for LNG gas in terms of funding those projects. And then we look at the other banks that have done this. The worst in Canada is none other than the Royal Bank of Canada. And the Royal Bank of Canada has, over the last 5 years, invested a lot of money financing a lot of the pipeline development projects. The worst bank in Asia, by the way, is Japan's Mitsubishi Bank, which has spent tons of money in fossil fuel projects. The worst bank in Europe is Barclays Bank, which has spent tons of money in oil and gas projects after the Paris Agreement, and still supporting oil in Europe is Bank of Paribas. And the worst in China is the Bank of China, which has invested tons of money in fossil fuels. And the worst bank in Australia is the ANZ Bank. So here we are seeing a classic example of banks compromising the planet in an absolutely unacceptable way in the last so many years. Now giving you a good overview of the problems that we face in the world, thanks to countries and companies who are actually compromising the planet in the banking industry. And one of the things that we need to ask ourselves now is, are there any banks doing the right thing? If all these banks are doing the wrong thing and compromising the planet by putting people, profit before people and profit before planet, are there any banks doing the right thing? So I would say that the best company who has done the right thing is none other than the European Investment Bank. And this is something that we can be very proud about, because they have been able to do so without compromising the planet. And what they have done is launched two very important initiatives. And one of the case studies that I wrote in April this year was about the fossil fuel situation, stopping of fossil fuel investment by the bank. And they have done an amazing job by doing so. And they took a decision that in 2021, that they will completely stop investing in fossil fuel projects. And we can all be proud that at least one bank in the world, and it's also one of the biggest multilateral banks, they have been able to do this without any problems in their country in terms of their bank. Today, the European Investment Bank is known as the world's climate bank, because they have always done the right thing for the planet without compromising the planet. So the team that runs this bank also did something dramatic in 2007. In 2007, the European Investment Bank was the first bank in the world to be able to launch what are known as green climate bonds. And these green climate bonds that they launched was an amazing project, which now has gone from a very small figure of under 600 million euros. Today, the figure for climate bonds in the world is none other than $1 trillion. So the European Investment Bank was the bank who started that project, and we can be very proud of their strategy. So they have launched green bonds in the world. They have stopped investing in fossil fuels, and all their strategies have been totally aligned to the Paris Agreement of December 2015. And the reason I'm sharing this information with you is that we at least now know that there was at least one bank in the world who did the right thing. And that is the reason I shared the European Investment Bank case. And I'm very proud that I was able to write the case study for NCR Business School on this very, very important topic. Okay? So we have done a deep dive onto the issue of the fossil fuel industry. We have also done a deep dive into the banking industry. And we can say without any hesitation that if there are two industries compromising the planet, it is the fossil fuel industry and the banking industry. These two industries have become governance compromises by completely devastating the planet by investing money in subsidizing fossil fuels and investing money in fossil fuel projects. Countries have subsidized, banks have invested in fossil fuels, and the fossil fuel companies have happily continued to burn fossil fuels in the planet more than ever before, from about 20 gigatons of carbon dioxide released through fossil fuels in 1980s to nearly 33.9 gigatons. So almost a 50% increase of burning fossil. And that is a climate emergency because we have compromised governance by banks, by nations, and by fossil fuel companies. So I hope that gives you a good picture of the situation.
All right. Thanks, Doctor. Thank you for the explanation. So, lastly, can we, the last topic, can we speak let's go back to 21st century leadership. So, how governance impacts 21st century leadership?
Good. So, what I'm going to do very quickly is do a recap of the 6 modules we did. And on each module, I will show you how governance compromises, where you put profit and people before planet, have become an issue. Okay? So let's start with the very first session we did, which was on climate emergency. So when we talk about climate emergency, we basically said every country and every company must exit fossil fuels. Do you remember? That was the main focus of the climate emergency. So now I can tell you that we showed you 2 case studies. One is a company in Denmark called Ørsted, who went from being a fossil fuel company to become 100% renewable energy company, right? That's what they were able to do. Yeah. Then we talked about health and social emergency. In the health and social emergency, what did we find? In the health and social emergency, what we found was that leaders compromised by putting profit before people, by a governance compromise, making people end up die because they put profit before people. The third module we did was economic emergency. In that emergency topic, we looked at 3 companies as examples of doing the right thing by putting planet before profits. What were the companies? We looked at Patagonia, Unilever, and Tesla. So that was our third topic. Then after completing the 3 emergencies, we went into the 3 disruptors. New technology was the first one. And there we learned about how a company called Google has made a massive commitment to putting planet before profit by making an energy transition. We also learned about precision agriculture, which is also putting planet before profit by using less water. And then we heard about artificial intelligence. From there, we went to geopolitical disruption. In geopolitical disruption, what did we learn? We learned the importance of understanding how companies and how countries are putting profit before planet in terms of issues. So, for example, we saw that there is a debt crisis in the world, And many countries are borrowing and investing money to use up more of our resources, and also sometimes borrowing money to subsidize fossil fuels. So that we saw as a big fossil fuel and debt compromising governance there. Then we talked about water scarcity, and we heard how people are ready to deforest for making more agriculture possible. And when we did that, we put profit before the planet. And finally, we went into understanding the way the fossil fuel industry is using geopolitics to make sure they put profit before planet in all their work. And this has also been a massive compromise by these companies and countries. So now we get to your question. I think in all the modules, I have given you very good examples of companies and countries putting profit before planet, profit before people, and also given you examples of the reverse of companies and countries who put planet and people before profit. So that is really the main message of governance. And now we come to the 21st century leadership model once again. So one of the things I want to share with everyone today is that my second book on 21st century leadership, To Fight the Code Red for Business, is going to be launched in March, and will cover all 6 of these modules and the 4 traits of a 21st century leader. So what are these 4 traits? Trait number 1 is that a 21st century leader has an appreciation and mobilizes science as a strategy to manage the climate emergency and the code red for humanity. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson we learned was where we learned that any 21st century leader, you will see their leadership differentiates us from those who are 19th century leaders, because they will have an urgency to fight the climate emergency. You know, if you don't have an urgency to fight the climate emergency, then we cannot call any of those people leaders, nor can we call them 21st century leaders. So when leaders of India, of China, of Brazil, and Russia said they will exit fossil fuels in 2050, 2060, 2070, they're showing us they don't have an urgency to fight the climate emergency. And when companies say they will move to 100% renewables after 2050, 2060, 2070, then we know those companies' boards and CEOs cannot be called 21st century leaders. So those were the first 2 traits of a 21st century leader. So what are the third and fourth? Third one is what we discussed today. We call them triple bottom line leaders who put planet and people before profit. So that is another differentiator of a 21st century leader. And the last one is that 21st century leaders will now understand the 6 modules very well, the 3 emergencies in terms of climate emergency, health and social emergency, and the economic emergency. They will also understand the 3 disruptors: technology disruption, geopolitical disruption, and today's topic, governance disruption. Once they are people who understand that module, all the 6 modules, and understand the 21st century leadership model, what they will do is take the key actions needed for each module and place them in the board agenda, CEO's agenda, and the operations agenda, and build strategies that solve these problems. So that is the concluding remark in terms of 21st century leadership. Is there any other question you would like to ask me in terms of the 6 modules we covered? And is there any other point that you would like to make before we close up our 6th and final session?
Well, so far it's perfect, Dr. Fernando. And thank you very much for doing this episode. And we wish you all the very best in your second book. So those who have not read the first book, just go ahead on to Amazon Kindle. You can download it on your iPhone, or you could use it on your Android phone, and you can purchase the book. And Dr. Fernando's new book also, which will be available next year, you can get it on March. You can get it on Amazon Kindle, and you can go ahead. So thank you very much once again, Dr. Fernando, for taking time and doing this. So let me once again wish you all the very best for your book.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you, Watson.
Thank
and
you.
I hope that many people will be inspired to move from being 19th century science denying national leaders and business leaders to become 21st century leaders. And one thing about the book is I'm going to not print many copies of this book. I want people to buy the e-version and not the printed version. Because if we buy the printed version, we are compromising once again profit before planet by happily destroying forests to make wood pulp to make paper. So like Watson said, please buy an electronic version of the book, which is 1/5 the price of a printed book. And then once again, we will put planet before profit. Thank you very much. And I wish the Ceylon leadership and center
Yes.
all the best as you create 21st century leaders.
Thank you all. And before we wrap up, happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays to everyone.